Howdy guys, me again. I'm here to do my wrap up for February. Also, this is my first opportunity ever to film a video with natural lighting. I don't get the chance often because I have a little boy and I can't film videos till he's in bed. The universe has moved in my direction and given me a day off work unexpectedly whilst he's at nursery, so it's my first ever chance to film with natural lighting. How do I look? So this month I read 3 books in total, which I'm aware is not a huge amount, but on the bright side, one of them was with this old beast, which I was a bit stressed out about reading because it's the size of my head. So actually I'm pretty proud of having read 3 books. Also the first book I didn't hugely enjoy, and I think that slowed me down a bit and put me off a little bit, so a bit disappointed. Must try harder. Although February is a short month, let's put that in my favour as well. So the first book that I read in February was Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. It was the first book I'd ever read by Neil Gaiman, and I don't have a physical copy because I borrowed it from the library and I've sent it back. When I started reading the book I was really excited about it. Loved the introduction, the bit where he talked about why he'd written it and his thoughts on the stories, etc, etc, his thoughts on short stories. It really made me connect with him, I felt, as a writer, and I really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed it before in books that have done similar things, like Stone Man by Luke Smitherd. He has a bit at the end where he talks about the book, and I really enjoy that. I'm the kind of nerd who watches director's cuts of films, so that's just me. I think the way I would describe Trigger Warning, for me, to sum it up and down. Some bits I really loved, some bits I really didn't. I liked that it was short stories. I enjoy reading short stories, and I think that helped. When I didn't enjoy it so much, I knew it would be over quickly. That sounds really mean. But it was easier to keep going. If it had been a novel, I'm not sure how long I would have kept going, whether I would have ended up giving up. It also includes a few poems. Now, I don't get poems, but it was nice to feel a little bit cultured at points in my reading. I don't think that any of the stories really had me hooked, had me at a point where I wanted to carry on reading, but there were some that I just enjoyed reading. The last story in the book, I can't even remember what it was about, but I just remember that the last story was probably my favourite, and that felt like a little reward for having stuck through when the going was tough. The story's in general quite dark as well, which is usually something I enjoy, but didn't float my boat completely here. I couldn't help but feel like there was something I was missing. Like sometimes when I read a story, it felt at the end like all these points were supposed to come together and they just weren't. So I think perhaps the fact that I wasn't too interested, I didn't perhaps read and take in as much as was needed to truly understand the story. Overall, I gave it 3 stars out of 5. I ummed and ahed about going lower, but I still plan to read more Neil Gaiman books, but I really hope the next one I read is as fantastic as I hope, otherwise I'm worried that I'm really going to be turned off by him as a writer. The second book, which I read this month, was Flight of the Silvers by Daniel Price. Now, this book took up a fair chunk of my month because it was quite long. It's a big old book. I know I keep harping on about it, but look at the size of it. But generally I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I enjoyed the story, I kept on reading, always wanted to keep on reading, but similarly to other stories I never felt that desire, that burning desire to keep on reading, which I feel is what sets a 5-star book from a 4-star book in my book. How many times can you say book in one sentence? I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm planning to do a separate review. My favourite thing about it was that it's sci-fi, and how much do I love sci-fi? I love books where you are completely absorbed in a new world and you're learning about it and finding out about how everything is different. I just love the whole new world, different world idea. What worked particularly well in Flight of the Silvers was that they had characters from Earth who are put on this new planet, so characters like yourself put on this new world, and you're learning alongside them. So as they're learning about this new world, you pick up the clues, so you're sort of drip fed rather than being 100% immersed, and that can be quite overwhelming. You sort of gradually learn about the new world, and by the end I was like an expert, and I would feel all smug when I understood why things worked that way and how things were different. But I recommend this to people. If you're into sci-fi, you're going to really enjoy this. I'm at the moment trying to convince my dad to read it, but I'm not sure how much of a sci-fi fan he is. The third and final book that I've read this month was graphic novel Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and I don't have a clue who it's by. Oh, Ransom Briggs. When I first started reading this, I absolutely adored it. I love the pictures. The pictures in it, for me, really make the story. So these sorts of pictures I found added that kind of creepy vibe that really floated my boat. I love reading about sort of slightly unusual, creepy things. I like reading, you know, those world's greatest mysteries, and I think that appealed to me, and that made me really interested in the story. I thought it was much better done. Sometimes when I've read graphic novels, I found them a bit too teenagery. Maybe that's just the ones I've read, but this didn't feel that way at the start. Unfortunately, it did a bit at the end. I don't know, just lost its appeal. I'm starting to think graphic novels just aren't my cup of tea. That's sad. So overall, not a bad month for me. Bit disappointed with how much I read, but Flight of the Silvers was worth it. It was a big book, but it was worth the time. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye.